The next topic in reasoning that we shall look at is input and output. An input is something that you feed into a process. This process then takes this input, operates on it, and what is generated by the process is known as the output. In this kind of question in the IBPS, you will be given a set of rules or steps which you must use on an input in order to arrive at an output. Now, these set of rules and steps have to be strictly followed. This is because this is based on a set and defined logic, and in order to arrive at that conclusion, you have to follow the steps exactly as they are. An input-output question will have one set of input and will have some stepwise information until the output. This will be followed by 4 to 5 questions based on this information. There will be multiple choices as in every other question in the IBPS exam, and you will have to choose the correct answer out of these multiple choices. Let's look at how to solve an input and output question. Step 1 is to understand the logic of the example. Once you figure out what the logic is, step 2 is to apply this logic and steps to whatever input is given in the question. And step 3 is to solve for the question using the steps that you have just derived. Let's understand this with the help of an example. Now you see an input, 3 steps and an output. Input is Anna has 7 pet dogs. Step 1 is 7 Anna has pet dogs. Step 2 is 7 pet Anna has dogs. Step 3, 7 pet has Anna dogs. And output is 7 pet has dogs Anna. Now step 1 is to understand the logic in the input-output flow that has been provided. By that I mean what is the reasoning, what is the rationale behind which these steps have come about. What do you have to do to the input to get step 1? What must you do after step 1 to come to step 2? And what defines the output? Output is when the process is over. So how do you know that your process is over? For this, if you look carefully at the output and the 3 steps, you will notice that the sequence is being shuffled in reverse alphabetic order, one word at a time. So in step 1, the input sentence, that is Anna has 7 pet dogs, is taken, and the word that comes last alphabetically, that is 7, is taken and put first. In step 2, the word 7 is ignored, the other 4 words, that is Anna has pet dogs, is taken. And similarly, the last word that comes alphabetically is taken and put in the front. So, pet is taken and put in the front. And then your step 2 becomes 7 pet Anna has dogs. Step 3 also follows the same logic. 7 and pet are kept aside. You have the 3 words Anna has dogs. The last word that comes alphabetically is has. So, has is put in front. So, step 3, if you look at it, is 7 pet has Anna dogs. Now you're left with just 2 words because 7 pet and has already been put in the front. That's Anna and dogs. And dogs comes later alphabetically. So dogs shall come before Anna. So you have 7 pet has dogs Anna. Now this sentence has already been sorted in reverse alphabetic order and cannot proceed any further. Hence the last step is your output. So this is the logic of the example that is provided. A sentence is given and you will have to rearrange and shuffle the words in order to put it finally in reverse alphabetic order in a certain logic. That is, read the sentence, take the word that comes last alphabetically and put it in the front. Next, now that you have your logic and you know what steps to go through, you apply it to a given input. Now let's say the given input is a sentence, Richard bought a large fish. Going by the same logic as in the example, step 1 becomes Richard bought a large fish. That is, you go through the entire sentence, pick the word that comes last alphabetically, bring it to the front. That is Richard, so it remains in the front. Step word is Richard bought a large fish. Step 2 is you ignore the word that you've just moved to the front, see the other words and bring the last word alphabetically to the front. So step 2 is Richard Large bought a fish. Step 3 becomes Richard Large fish bought a. And that's the end of it. So Richard Large fish bought a will be the last step because now the sentence has already been arranged in a descending alphabetical order. Now let's say the question asked here is, how many steps before the output is reached? So now you have to solve for this question. We've seen that 3 steps are there until the sentence has been rearranged in descending alphabetical order. So the answer is 3. You need 3 steps in this particular logic before you reach your output for the sentence or for the given input, Richard bought a large fish. Let's look at some tips and shortcuts for solving an input-output problem. First is that always look at the last step first. When you look at your input sentence, always look at the last output to get an idea of what the process is all about. This will give you an idea what your final output is intended to be. So you know what your process is and what is the end step of this process. So you will then know whether, as in you will see from our example, that the words had been rearranged in descending alphabetical order. It might be some other logic. But if you look at the output first, you look at the last step first, you will know exactly what the final step is supposed to be. That will help you understand the intermediate steps better. The second tip is, don't solve fully. It is not always necessary for you to solve the input-output question completely from input to output once you figured out the logic. Why is that? Sometimes the questions might just ask you what is the second step of this input-output process or what is the third step of this input-output process. It may be possible that this particular process has 6 steps in total, but now your question is just asking you for what is the second step. So you don't have to solve it completely for a given input. Just doing it until the second or third step should be sufficient. This will help you save time because remember that the IBPS prelims exam has 100 questions which has to be solved in 1 hour. That leaves you less than 1 minute per question. So, the faster you solve a question, the better for you. So you don't have to fully solve a question. You only solve it until step 2 or step 3. That is sufficient because it gives you your answer and you save some time so that you can solve some other questions.